I'm Melissa. I've been married for nearly 10 years now, and we're both in our 40s. We don't have any children, and I live with my husband, Cedric. Cedric is 5 years older than me and works an ordinary white-collar job. I have a part-time job as well, so there's a little financial cushion for the two of us. Since getting married, we haven't had any significant arguments, and I think we've been getting along quite well. However, things have started to get a little complicated recently. It all started when I inherited a condo after my father passed away. I've been told to move into that condo and to hand over my childhood home. My father had bought a new 2-bedroom condo when we got married, and he was living there. It's not a huge place, but it's a stylish condo. The condo where Cedric and I live now is my childhood home. I lived with my father and mother in a 4-bedroom condo until I got married, and then my father gave it to me. I left home once to go to college, but coming back after marriage to a home filled with memories was truly joyous. My mother passed away when I was in college, so my father was living alone in the family home. When we were getting married, he said, "How about living in this condo?" I thought he was suggesting moving in together, but he firmly declined. He probably didn't want to interfere with our newlywed life. Then, my father passed away. I inherited the 2-bedroom condo where he had been living. Fortunately, I was able to quickly find a tenant and have them sign a lease. I thought our life would continue just as before. But a year passed, and my mother-in-law surprised me with an unexpected proposal during a visit. "Why don't we let Jasmine and her kids live in the 4-bedroom condo you're in? It's getting tight where they are now." Jasmine is Cedric's sister and a single mother raising 3 children. They currently live in a 2-bedroom apartment. The kids were all in elementary school now, and I understood that their place might be tight for a family of 4. However, I had never had a good impression of Jasmine. Every time we met, she looked down on me for not having children. Cedric and I got married just before I turned 30. At that time, she had already tried to outdo me, but it got even worse after I turned 30. "You're 30 and still don't have a single child? You still don't have children? As a woman, isn't your life over?" Those words were just the beginning. The ultimate insult came when my father passed away. "You're such a disgrace not letting your father meet his grandchild." Jasmine is 3 years older than me, but she feels more like a younger sister-in-law than an older sister-in-law. In any case, we were technically family, so I wanted to get along if possible, and I thought I was making an effort. But after hearing those words, I wanted to keep my distance from Jasmine as much as possible. I don't have any siblings, and my only blood-related family was my father. And in the midst of being both mentally and physically exhausted after losing him, she said those words to me without a hint of sympathy. It's impossible not to have a terrible impression after that. I hadn't seen her since shortly after my father passed away, so I never expected such a proposal from my mother-in-law. She says she'll pay the rent. $500 a month. She said this with a look on her face as if to say, "Isn't that a great deal?" I was utterly astonished. Our condo is not that new, but it has been renovated, so the facilities are clean and there are no problems. With good public transport and being adjacent to a mall, if we were to rent it out, the rent would undoubtedly be over $2,000. $500? I don't know if they're unaware of the marketplace or what, but that's a lot of nerve to mention such figure when talking about renting a 4-bedroom condo. Since I didn't say anything, my mother-in-law must have taken it as a confirmation and proceeded with the conversation. "Don't you have a condo that you're renting out now? You two can live there. Just don't renew the lease. You two can move in, and once you're done moving, Jasmine and her family can move in. How many years is the lease?" she said. Cedric, being himself, said, "Oh yeah, that's a great idea. The condo where my father-in-law lived is new and stylish, and it's enough space for the 2 of us to live in." It seemed like the conversation would just keep moving forward on its own, so I asked, "Aren't we supposed to live here together?" In reality, my in-laws live in a single-family home, and now it's just my father-in-law and mother-in-law living there. Cedric and Jasmine's rooms aren't even being used. It seemed like it wouldn't be a problem if Jasmine's family moved in. Rather, if they wanted to move to a larger place, shouldn't they rely on their parents' home before asking us to move? However, it seems that if they move into my in-laws' home, the children will have to transfer schools. They would need to purchase new school uniforms and other things, so they said it would be a waste of money. I couldn't explicitly say no to my mother-in-law about renting the place to Jasmine, but I told her, "This is where I was born and raised. I can't just decide to leave so easily." We left my in-laws' house without saying anything else that day. Considering that my mother-in-law said, "I'm not saying you have to do it right away," she probably hasn't given up at all. When I got back to the condo, I said to Cedric, "This is my family home, you know. How can you agree to leave so easily?" Cedric seemed surprised, like he hadn't even thought I was angry. "Wait, but your family home is a condo," he said. I was truly disappointed with Cedric, who just said that without apologizing. Cedric, who grew up in a single-family home, seems to have a strong impression that a family home must be a standalone house. He doesn't seem to understand how I could consider a condo my family home. Since we were raised in different environments, I suppose it's understandable, but a simple word of apology would have been nice. My anger reached a peak, and I raised my voice. "The condo is my family home. Don't go making decisions about my condo on your own." Cedric seemed displeased when I referred to it as my condo. "What do you mean, your condo? We've been married for 10 years. It's our condo," he shouted back. If he hadn't denied that I think of this condo as my family home, if he hadn't resisted renting it to my sister-in-law, I might not have minded Cedric calling it our condo. But now I couldn't help but feel disgusted when he said our condo. After that, we talked about it many times, but we were still at an impasse. Cedric, who never considered my feelings, called me stingy, stubborn, and malicious. We both refused to give in, and in the end, we couldn't make any decisions or solve anything for several months. All the while, my mother-in-law would contact us, asking, "Have you thought about what we discussed last time?" My mother-in-law and Cedric, who wouldn't support me, were driving me to my limit. Then one day, I got a text from Jasmine, who was finally furious that the matter wasn't progressing. "You don't have kids, so a 2-bedroom condo should be enough. Living with just the two of you in a 4-bedroom condo is a luxury. Just move out." I hadn't been in touch with Jasmine since my mother-in-law brought up the condo issue, so this was out of the blue. No polite requests to rent, no pleases, just a command to leave. Who does she think she is? Reading the text from Jasmine, I felt foolish for trying to keep things amicable until now. As we talked, the word divorce crossed my mind again and again. Each time, I tried to suppress my emotions, but I knew I was at the end of my tether. I went to the courthouse and picked up divorce papers, then made a call to a certain place. A few days later, I headed to the county clerk's office. When I obtained the copies of the property deeds, I found that the condo I live in and the one I'm renting out are both in my name. With this confirmation, I decided to give my husband one last chance. "I've told you over and over I really don't want to rent this condo to Jasmine. It's my family home. I just can't bear to rent it to someone who's looked down on me and said awful things. I want you to tell her not to count on this place either." Cedric's face showed clear annoyance. It was always like this when I brought up the subject. In the past, during arguments with Cedric, I told him everything Jasmine had said to me. I thought by telling him, he would understand why I didn't want to rent to Jasmine. But that didn't happen. Cedric even said, "But what Jasmine is saying isn't entirely wrong either." In retrospect, I should have divorced him right then and there. It would have spared me so much distress, but I didn't have the courage to leave someone I'd been with for 10 years, or to be alone as I approached 40. Now it's different. If Cedric rejects my proposal, I'll say goodbye. I had made up my mind, and that was my plea. "You hate moving out of your family home that much? You're just tormenting Jasmine because you hate her. It's your fault for acting in a way that invites disdain, and plus you're just exaggerating.
It's not like you've been told anything that bad. I can't understand why you can be so spiteful."
Unaware of my desperate resolve, Cedric said this with a baffled look on his face. I just couldn't understand Cedric, who never once sided with me, no matter how many times I told him. Perhaps we can never understand each other anymore. "Then please fill this out." With those words, I handed him the divorce papers. I thought he might panic or become agitated, but Cedric simply snorted with a smirk when he saw the divorce papers.
"Come on, what's this about? You think threatening to divorce me will make me back down?"
Cedric seemed to think I wasn't serious about the divorce. "This isn't a threat. I thought I could get along with Jasmine even if she's just my sister-in-law, but now I feel it's impossible. Same with your mother and you. I can't trust you anymore and there's no love left. It's over. Pack your things and leave now." Without knowing how determined I was about the divorce, Cedric laughed. Anger welled within me and I spoke my mind. I wanted him to leave as soon as possible.
"Jasmine and my mom don't necessarily dislike you. Can't you see this is all your fault because you only think about yourself?"
Cedric countered. Feeling that this was getting us nowhere, I said, "Enough. We can't understand each other anymore. You don't want to understand me, and I don't want to understand you. I can only think of divorce. If you don't sign, I'll file for mediation." I said this coldly. Cedric yelled, "Enough already!" kicked the wall and stormed out of the house. He didn't sign the divorce papers or take any of his belongings. It seemed he just wanted to leave the situation behind. Days later, just as I expected, Cedric came back. With a guilty look on his face, he asked,
"What should I do?"
"Does he think that I'll forgive him if he humbles himself? There's nothing to do at all. Everything's already settled. If you agree to the divorce, sign the divorce papers. If not, I'll file for mediation. Also, I've decided to sell this condo." Yes, I had decided to sell my family home. The day I went to court to get the divorce papers, I contacted my father's friend, Mr. Allen. I had met Mr. Allen several times since I was young, and he was very close to my father. Mr. Allen, who came to my father's memorial service, gave me his business card saying,
"If you need anything, just ask."
His business card listed the name of his law firm. Mr. Allen was a lawyer there. Thanks to Mr. Allen introducing me to a judicial scrivener, I was able to smoothly process my father's inheritance. When I consulted him about this matter, Mr. Allen was supportive, advising me to check the ownership of the condo and giving advice for when the divorce might not be agreed upon. I think that's why I could take a strong stand. After Cedric left the house, I resolved to sell the condo. I contacted a real estate agent and told them I wanted to sell. I informed Mr. Allen that the conversation with Cedric had not gone well, that I could not get him to sign the divorce papers, and that he had left the house without settling anything. I asked for his help if it came to mediation. Cedric, upon hearing that the condo was going up for sale, widened his eyes, and contrary to his previous attitude, let out an intimidating low voice.
"What? So, you kept saying it's your family home and now you're selling it? So it wasn't that important after all. Then you could have rented it to Jasmine, you stingy woman."
Cedric might have lashed out, but I no longer cared what he said. "So?" I sent him a cold glance. He seemed a bit stiffened, but apparently he wasn't backing down yet.
"Don't just decide to sell it on your own. The title may be in your name, but when we divorce, there should be a division of property. This condo was our shared property where we lived, right?"
Facing the defiant Cedric, I smugly said, "Too bad. This condo was put in my name by my father just before I got married. Anything I owned before marriage isn't subject to property division. I've already confirmed it with the lawyer. Though it was hard to let go of the family home, I didn't want to increase the bad memories associated with this place by holding on to it. I consulted with Mr. Allen, and once I found out that this condo wouldn't be subject to property division, I was able to decide to sell it right away. Upon learning the truth, Cedric changed his attitude completely, now clinging to me in an unseemly way.
"I was wrong. I don't need to rent this place to Jasmine. It's your precious family home. Are you sure you want to sell it? Since you're still living here, you haven't sold it yet, right? Let's not sell it and start over here. I'll talk to Jasmine and my mother, so let's not divorce or sell the condo."
At this point, I began to wonder why I had been with such a person for 10 years.
I was disgusted with myself for having been with him. Don't say nice things now. You never stood by me no matter how many times we talked. It's absolutely impossible for me to start over with you now. Goodbye. Please pack your things and leave as soon as possible. He continued to resist the divorce, so it ended up going to divorce mediation, and I was finally able to part ways with Cedric. Now I am free. I thought being single would be scary, but it's not so bad. I've now purchased a new 2-bedroom condo, and I'm enjoying my life as I please.